Alright, before we get started, if you like this, please like. If you've got any comment, please comment. If you think it's worth sharing, please share it. And hit the notification bell if you want to see more videos like it. And if you think that it's that good that you want to show some monetary appreciation, there is a Streamlabs link in the description. Thank you very much. Can we just stop fighting with nature, please? Our humanity is very natural, and so is the world that we inhabit. So we should stop plotting against it. We should have some truth and faith and honesty. The world is ordered by what is, what was, and what forever will be. And we're currently witnessing humanity trying to erase the natural order. And it will not win. Whatever the plot or scheme, it's going to fail. Since the world has been about, it's moved in cycles of truth and lies, and you can't just muster up words to try and change those cycles. They've existed throughout history forever. We've had periods of hot and cold and war and peace, prosperity and destitution, and existence and erasure. And they all come about because of the manipulation of the natural order. There's an incessant want to try and take power away from what is natural and replace truth with lies and try and establish a new world order and a one world government. There's organisations of people who try and write and speak words to try and bring about something into existence that battles with the way things are. And the attempts to erase whatever is natural and replace it with whatever is man-made is never good. So those of us who have hope and faith and want truth and honesty, we will get told that somehow fascist dictators who want to do away with it aren't the ones who are trying to bring about the destruction of the natural order. You witness that the supernatural organisations have basically a fetish for it. They get sexually excited at the thought of having some sort of power and control over human nature. They basically hate themselves. They despise existence under a natural order because it's presented to them through a force that they can't witness or tamper with. And then they go and masturbate their lives away, trying to coat it in semen, hoping to fertilise an ovum and gestate what they eventually want to give birth to. It's disgusting, an abhorrent way to try and birth something so unnatural and uninviting. And people often beg for its miscarriage or its abortion. That's where they bring their whole argument. They invert it. And they tell you that wanting to abort what is evil, while telling you that you should abort what comes naturally into the world, is the remedy for the world's problems. The only remedy that they ever come up with is to destroy and take over and replace the natural order with their own image of how the world should be. You should take extreme notice of that. You should drink it in and soak it up, digest it fully. Imbue yourself with the knowledge of what is evil. Their inversions are everywhere, with hate speech, political correctness, rules for thee and not for me, a continual introduction of hypocritical rules to cover up what they're trying to do. You notice the introduction of identity politics and the constant knocking on the door of made-up words to try and alienate and prescribe a thought process to everyone who isn't in their gang. Most people feel powerless, like they can do nothing about it. When you've got the banks, the media, whole left-wing apparatus, the experts, scientists, hedge funds, all of these globalists telling you who is and who isn't, and who should be listened to and who should be silenced. And their pressure to label any independent thought or action as a problem that's destroying democracy or attacking their way of life and culture, that it's extremism, that it's terrorism, that it should be done away with. It's very much their projection of their own failure of being able to exist in the natural order. It burns them because it highlights them and their immorality and their lack of a soul and their demonic possession. Because they've sold their souls, and now they have no shadows and reflections, and they have no introspection. They wander around in the dark, and they want to pull that darkness over the world. And it's really time that we should all wake up to that. That nature has its own order and its own way of doing things, and it's fixed and irreplaceable, and it's self-sustaining and self-balancing. It reveals what is, what's true, and the way and the light of the world. And you should have faith and hope in that. You should have self-respect in knowing that they will be revealed. That is their whole reason for trying to convince you that God doesn't exist, that atheism's the way to be, that science should be your new religion and the only thing that you agree with. It's to try and trick you into thinking that they're not in opposition to anything outside of what we can witness or what's existing. There is a force beyond us that controls nature and our ability to exist within it. We should all exist trying to preserve it and nature it and love it. Know that it has free will. Free will isn't the unlimited, untamed and ever-destined evil that they try and project. And those that are demonic and soulless will forever try and convince you that free will doesn't exist, or that you shouldn't use it. Free will exists so that you can make the important choices, because it's your ability to recognize what will bring your demise, what will attack you, what will harm you, and your ability to defend against it by doing what's right and what's moral, what's just, and being able to bring justice to the world and expose what's evil. We should have heavy and strong respect for the natural order and the nature of the earth and the nature of being human. Their constant distortion and redressing and stripping of meaning from everything to try and insert what they think people desire as a world order. Your basic left-wing thinking that communism, socialism, Marxism, postmodernism and the changing of words and their meaning, terrorism, fascism, indoctrination, use of violence or punishment to try and get rid of what they see as wrong think. It's all an attempt to replace God or nature, to take over with what they think is the order of humanity. You can see that their agenda is to put one person in charge of the world, and extending upon that, they have to organize a group of disciples to that one person. And they have to install dictatorships and heads of government, and have one world central finance or order of trade, strip you of your private property, limit your ability to produce so that they can have power or control over everything. And that is what's wrong with the world. And we see it with the CCP in China, with Biden and Gates and Soros, with the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Bilderbergs, the Vanderbilts, the monarchs that have no government, church-run countries, Federal Reserve, the stock market, commodities trading, EU, the UN, the WHO, the WEF, Davos, Gavi, CDC, the AMA, NICE, any of the pharmaceutical operatives. They're all central and overbearing and singular. And they're trying to establish their place in the world through amassing central control and ownership of everything. They can't handle that people can witness it and call it out. Know that it's unnatural and incoherent, despicable, fascist, dictatorial, that they're conspiring to bring about a destructive force upon the world. It baffles me how they can think that any of their statements or actions are honest or trying to help anyone, because it's selfish. They're just trying to gain control over something, and they try and do it by decree, by telling you that they're the ones being virtuous, they're the ones who can save humanity from itself, they're the ones who can bring about some sort of order to the world, to restore peace and prosperity. They are basically evil incarnate. They've rid themselves of any semblance of a soul, and it's been replaced by this demonic possession. They want to destroy and dispose of nature and try and replace it with something abominable, something Luciferian and hostile to anyone who's got faith in any sort of natural being outside of what we can witness and outside of human existence. They are controlled and directed by greed, lust, and envy. And they want to rain their wrath upon the world for not giving them the control and power and the order that they want, because nature gets in the way. That's why they bring about all of these politically correct terms and try to control culture. Why they conflate religion with a race. Why there's terms like anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, xenophobia. Why they call everybody a white supremacist or a Nazi. Why the term hate speech exists. Why they try and think that words are violence. And why they try and say that anything you put out in the world could influence people to be evil, because they live in the inverse. And what they call evil is what's natural. And they can't handle it because it gets in the way of their system of control. And they try and make you feel guilt or shame. They try and make you think that you're the bad one because you're not restricting yourself. You're not getting out of the way. You're not just letting them take control and reorder things. If you have any knowledge of what's come before, our history, and what was, what is, and whatever will be, you'll notice that that is the satanic order, the rebellion, the wanting to get away from thinking that nature has any semblance of control or order or way of itself. And the only way that we can bring humanity back on track and to bring about peace and prosperity is by taking away their control. And we should learn to ignore them. Don't give any credence to their diktats, their edicts, what they want for you. Just ignore it all. Sit it out. Tell them no, but don't be violent in resistance. You don't need to attack them. Just go about life respecting that nature exists, that there is a natural order, and that you should learn to live within it. You shouldn't do harm to others. You should love thy neighbour and treat others as you would treat yourself. The way to be selfless is to keep your self-discipline. Don't perform actions that may bring harm. And don't command anybody to do harm for you. It will not bring about anything good. You should get out of debt. Stop being tempted by extraneous things that we don't need. You should be meek and tread lightly. Be strong and steadfast in your faith and hope and love, and trust that the natural order will be restored just by nature itself, by ignoring the control of man. You should remain true and good and honest You should hold a mirror up to these people. You should shine a light upon them. And you should make them bear witness to what they're trying to do. Show them their own reflection. Make them have some introspection. And hopefully it will make them learn. And then they will admit that they are being evil, that they have done wrong, that they are trying to dictate and take control, that they are envious and trying to bring their wrath upon the world. You should really make them want some free will so that they can reclaim their own nature as a human being and act naturally by respecting the natural order of things. But what we would call the natural order is what they call fascism. They think that trying to respect something that's out of our control and telling people that they can't control the world and that their free will can't be used to just enact whatever they want. They can't distort humanity. They can't get rid of their body. They can't become the ethereal control mechanism that they think hangs over them. Free will exists. And it exists for a reason, because no one is in control of you. You're in control of yourself. You should learn to have self-discipline. You should use it for good. You should tell the truth. You should be honest. You should be allowed to be honest. You should be allowed to tell people when someone's being bad, when someone is doing something evil, when someone's conspiring in a plot behind closed doors to try and gain some ultimate control. You shouldn't feel guilty or shameful for doing it, and you shouldn't be led into shame or temptation or slavery or trying to rid yourself of any self-control. And you should just act in a way that's righteous. You can have indignation. You can stand up for yourself. You can say no. You can learn to ignore them and go about life without giving in to their own power structures or systems. You should just make sure that it's good, it's true, and it's honest. You shouldn't attack anybody. Don't bring violence to try and bring a resolution to it. This will solve itself. You just have to hold out and keep the faith. And that is why we should respect words. Because words are singular, characterized notions. They imply something. Their implication is their meaning. Without meaning, with this constant distortion and the trying to strip of meaning and the changing of words, the trying to invert everything so that what we know as true and good becomes evil and bad. That's their tactic. You should recognize that. You can restore your own natural order by knowing what is true. And I know the media and the politicians and all of these supranational groups try and inflict words upon you. They always use numbers to try and back things up. And you should recognize that it's all lies. It's all a control mechanism. It's all a red flag. It's all a way of trying to say, oh, here's a problem that we have to solve, and the only way we can solve it is by letting these people have control over you. By letting a one world dictator place a new order, the Great Reset, as it were. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful, and I hope you enjoyed this message. And again, as in the beginning, if you could like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to see more videos like this. And if it was inspiring enough and brought you some kind of peace or serenity or hope, then if you wouldn't mind, there is a Streamlabs donation link in the description below. If you could bung me $1 or £1, that would be very useful. Thank you very much for listening. Peace, much love.